Making a tactics game is hard. No, seriously. From the outside, they look simple. The combat is slower and more methodical, and actions usually happen sequentially rather than at the same time. But don't let this fool you. They actually have a lot of systems working together to create seamless gameplay. You've got things like unit management, pathfinding, grid visuals, and various action types. These components are simple enough when by themselves, but can create a nightmare of a project if not managed well when brought together. On the bright side, the resources I did stumble across were of very good quality and gave me a good nudge in the right direction for my game. Ah, right, my game. I have this idea where you're a necromancer that somehow found your way into hell. But rather than trying to escape, you look to challenge Lucifer and the 7 deadly sins. I know, very original. The name I've settled on is the Necrotic Trials, but that is still a work in progress. There are a lot of things I'm still brainstorming, so if you have any ideas or things you would change, don't be afraid to drop them in the comments. I'd really appreciate any feedback. What I do know is I want this to be a grid-based tactics game with smaller-ish fights broken up into various rooms. Each floor will have a procedurally generated map with a similar feel to Slay the Spire. At the end of each level would be a boss consisting of one of the 7 deadly sins, each with their own mechanics and themes. A big mechanic of this game will be the soul system. As you defeat enemies, you can collect their souls, and then spend the souls on either summoning new undead creatures for your army or upgrading existing ones. I was also thinking of adding some roguelike mechanics, where as you complete a room, you get a choice of certain relics or passives which you can use to upgrade your army throughout the course of the dungeon. Before I jump into what I've been working on, let me introduce myself since this is my first video. I go by Cyber. I've been programming in some form or another for over a decade now, and I've done a lot of side projects and various game jams in the past. I'll link my itch.io page in the description if you want to check out some of the games I've built. I'm currently pursuing my master's in computer science and have the very ambitious dream of one day making an online game that millions of people can play and enjoy. Phew, okay, let's get started. The first step is the easiest. I need a grid system where all of the units will reside. Surprisingly, this took barely any time to get working. I also added some functionality to be able to get a specific grid position from the world position, like the mouse for example, which will come in handy later on when I need to target specific tiles. Next, I spent some time on an abstract unit class, which will have all the logic for any unit that can move on the grid, but nothing else, so no combat or stats or anything like that. Keeping everything nice and separate is one of my major goals for this project. I don't want to take a break for finals and come back having to relearn how my code works together. Units can request a position on the grid, which is then stored in each individual tile. I went with this setup rather than having the grid handle all the units, as it keeps the code decoupled and better follows the single responsibility principle. Another important design decision I made is allowing tiles to hold multiple units. My reasoning behind this is although only one unit can reside on any tile at a given time, various undead units, like a ghost for example, will have the ability to walk through other units, and instead of having them jump a tile so to speak, this way makes it easier to keep track of all unit positions. Lastly, I added the starting code for handling obstacles. Since I don't have pathfinding implemented yet, this really isn't needed, but I figured I'd add it anyway. If a tile detects any game object on the obstacle layer residing above it, it simply skips that tile and doesn't generate it. This will make it dramatically easier to design levels, as the grid will pretty much build itself around the map. Before I go, I want to beautify what I have a little and get the aesthetics down for the prototype. After searching the asset store for a little bit, I found Synthy Studios' Dungeons and Dungeon Realm packs, which have more than enough models to get me started. Ah, much better. This isn't perfect, but this will be fine while we build up the mechanics, and we can focus on level design later on. That is all I have for this first devlog. My next step is to work on a modular action system, which can be expanded for various abilities, interactions, and movement commands as the game develops. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to keep up to date with this project and see how it develops. I'm very excited to be bringing this project to you, and I hope you can stick around for the journey. Bye.